Hello friends, it's Kristie Marcotte. Jaded Blossom's brand new fall release is now available and there are so many fun items. If you are interested in any of the products, I do have links provided in the description box below. The first item is a stamp set called Aw Shucks, and it does include the outline die. Now this is not available for purchase at this time. It's the freebie you'll receive if you order at least $60 worth of product, and your order has to include at least one item from the new fall release. This is a cute little stamp set with a corn image. It has a couple of faces and the sentiment, "Aw shucks, I missed your birthday." The next item is a stamp set called Dear Friend. So there's the stamp set and the coordinating outline dies, and I love that this time they have dies for all of the sentiments. It's a beautiful deer image. There are a couple of small flower stamps and really fun sentiments. Thank you dearly, happy birthday my dear, for my dear friend. There's even a Christmas, dearie Christmas, and then hello dear. The next stamp set is called Fall Candies, grid style. There are 3 sentiments on the side: thankful and grateful, happy fall, happy Thanksgiving. There's the one image of the wheat, and then all of the tiny images and sentiments. And you can use their grid die to cut all of those out. The next stamp set is all sentiments. It's called Happy Fall Gnome, and they do have the coordinating outline dies. With their super popular Gnome Dies, I love that they're coming out with all these really cute sentiment sets. Lots and lots of punny sentiments. So this is perfect for fall cards. Most of the sentiments are gnome related, but there are a few that would work without the gnome, like Hello Autumn and Hello Pumpkin. Next we have a die set. This is the Tree Stump Die. This is so fun. It's very similar to the Mushroom House die that was released last month. You can have your gnome sit right on top of this tree stump. And I love all the stitch detail. The final die set is my favorite. This is the Gnome Dies Fall Add-ons. There are 3 different hats, so that's always fun to get new hats for your gnome. The scarecrow is my favorite. We also have a crow, there's a leaf, there's some pumpkins, an acorn. You can even make a jack-o'-lantern since there's several different faces. To create all the adorable gnomes using these add-on sets, you will need to purchase the original gnome set, and there's also a girl gnome die set. So once you have those 2 sets, all of the add-ons work together. I love making fall cards. I was so excited to see all the fun new fall products. So let's go ahead and get started. I have 6 different card designs to share. For card design number 1, I'm using a card sketch from MFT. This is number 352. For most of the cards in this video, I will be using an older Doodlebug design collection. This is called Fall Friends, and it's fairly old. It's from 2015, so it's not available any longer. Decided to finally cut it open and start using it up. My first card design is very simple. I have some yellow cardstock for the background that has a linen finish on it. I'm using 2 different pattern papers. The brown strip in the background has a tone-on-tone leaf pattern, kind of hard to see in the video. And then for my featured pattern, I'm using the cute little pumpkin patch paper. I'll be layering everything on some dark brown cardstock. For the brown strip in the background, I did use some Love from Lizzie peel-offs, added it just to the outside edge, since most of it will be covered up with the pumpkin paper. Then I'll put ATG tape on the back and add my card front onto a card base, leaving that 1/8 of an inch of the white card base showing. All of my cards in this video are American Standard A2 size, 5.5 inches by 4.25 inches. For the sentiment, I'm using Jaded Blossom's Label Shape Dies set number 1. I stamped out Hello Pumpkin on the smaller label, and then I love that it has the larger label so you can have that fun matted frame. Before adhering the sentiment to my card, I will put a scrap piece of cardstock on the very left side. Just glue that in place with some liquid adhesive. To finish off the card, I'm using Spellbinder's Peach Opalescent Sequins. This is a beautiful color. It has that iridescent finish on it, and the color matches the pattern paper beautifully. Put 2 in the upper right-hand corner, 2 in the lower left-hand corner, and 1 next to the sentiment. I'm using an embellishment wand to pick up the sequins, adding just that small drop of liquid adhesive, then pressing them in place. So there is my finished card, and I did make 2 using this design. Now moving on to card design number 2. The card sketch is from Sugar Pea Designs. This is Sugar Sketch number 9. I selected 3 different pattern papers. For the background, it looks like a stitched panel, has white, yellow, brown, and orange small stitches. Then for the diagonal piece, there's lots of little fall images. Then for this piece on the right, and you won't see very much of this at all, it's a tone-on-tone wood grain pattern in orange. I'm layering everything on some dark brown cardstock. Before adhering the orange wood grain paper, I did put some scrap cardstock on the very right side, just to keep everything at the same level. Then I'll layer this background panel on the same dark brown cardstock. Put my card front onto a card base, leaving that 1/8 of an inch of the white card base showing. For the long banner that goes across the card, I decided to stick with some solid cardstock. There's already 3 different patterns on there, and I didn't want to add another busy design. Before adhering that strip, I will put some foam dimension on the very right side, also putting some foam dimension on the left side, on that fishtail area, and then a small scrap piece of cardstock toward the left. Then I'll adhere it in place. Now to start assembling the gnome. For this card, it'll be featuring one of the boy gnomes. I have the very background outline piece. I like to use white cardstock. Some people use black cardstock. It really doesn't matter since you won't see it at all. You'll be covering up that entire piece. But it's a good foundation so you know where to put all your pieces. So I've added the beard, and also his feet. And now I'll start working on this scarecrow hat. This is so cute. I cut it out from some dark craft cardstock. For the hair, I used a tone-on-tone yellow pattern that's included in the paper pad. There are 3 little patches for the hat, and I used some solid cardstock, yellow, orange, and green. I'm attaching the main portion of the hat first, then adding in all those little patches. I first put down a little bit of liquid adhesive. I'm using my reverse tweezers and just inlaying those little patch pieces. And I'm adding a little bit of brown ink to the hat. That way it doesn't look so clean. Usually a scarecrow would be a little bit dirty. I used the icing on the cake ink color from Catherine Pooler. And I'm doing this on my waffle flower stencil mat. It's so easy to clean up. So now I can start assembling the rest of the gnome. So I have his mustache. I'll glue that down using liquid adhesive. For his nose, I will pop it up using some thin foam dimension. Whenever I make my little gnomes, I like to use an assortment of different skin tones. So for the 3 different gnomes I make in this video, all of them will have a different skin tone. Next, I'll attach a stitched oval die cut, and I use some off-white shimmer cardstock. Just glue that down using liquid adhesive. So this is where my gnome will sit. I will pop up my gnome using some more of the thin foam dimension. Make sure to get good coverage. Then I'll remove the release paper and adhere my gnome on top of that oval die cut. Now my gnome doesn't have his hands yet. He will be holding a crow. So here are all the pieces to assemble the crow. I have the very background. I use some black cardstock. For the feet and also the beak, I'm using some dark gray cardstock. Since crows are basically all black, I didn't want to add any other colors. So now I'll add the top portion of the crow using that same black cardstock. And then the opposite side of this black cardstock actually is a gray, and it has a pearlescent finish. So that's what I used for his wing. Now it's hard to tell in the video, but the 2 little bumps that go on the outside of the crow, those are intended for the hands. So it gives you that hand placement already. So I did put some small scrap pieces of cardstock before gluing down the hands. I'll put liquid adhesive on the back and add my crow onto the gnome. So now you can see him holding the bird. For the sentiment, I've already stamped and cut this out, Hello Autumn. And using the same outline die, I cut out a second piece from the brown cardstock, just offset them slightly so there's that brown cardstock drop shadow. and I did pop that up using some foam dimension. I'll remove the release paper and adhere the sentiment in the upper right hand corner. To finish off the card, I'll use some more of the Spellbinder's Peach Opalescent Sequins. Put 3 of them in the lower right hand corner, 2 in the upper left hand corner. The sequins don't actually come in this little container. This is something I purchased on Amazon, and I'll try to remember and add a link in the description box. It's very handy for small containers of bling if you don't want to deal with those little plastic bags. Then I'll also add the little bit of highlight using a white gel pen. Just add a few spots on his hat, his nose, and his feet. And I also use the white gel pen for the eye of the crow. So there is my finished card, and I did make 2 using this design. I just love that scarecrow hat. It's so adorable. Now moving on to card design number 3. The card sketch is from MFT. This is number 603. I haven't tried this card sketch before, but I thought it looked like a lot of fun. I selected 3 different pattern papers. I have the tone-on-tone leaf paper for the largest triangle. Then for the other 2 pieces, I cut some rectangles. So I'm just going to hold them up to my card and try to get that placement about the same as what's indicated on the sketch. For the background cardstock, I'm using some more of that off-white shimmer cardstock. And this is also something I purchased on Amazon, and I will add a link in the description box. Not sure if it's still available. Sometimes it goes out of stock. So after I've attached those 2 rectangle pieces, the yellow pattern paper and the tree pattern paper, I just flip over that panel, use my scissors to trim it off. So now I have that fun design as indicated on the sketch. For a little extra detail along the side of the pattern paper, I'm using some Love from Lizzie peel-offs. This is the pinstripe style in the gold moon dust color. I'm using the medium width and adding one just along the very edge of the pattern paper. Then I'll just flip over the panel to trim off the extra. Except for the itty bitty little scrap pieces, I always save all the extra peel-offs. Sometimes you only need a small piece, so that's why you always save those. I was searching through my sheet to see if I have any more of the medium width so I don't have to use a brand new strip. So now put some ATG tape on the back and layer this piece on some brown cardstock. Then I'll put my card front onto a card base. Generally, I add an additional 1/8 of an inch for my cardstock layers. For this very background, that off-white shimmer cardstock, it's 4 inches by 5 1/4 inches, and then my background layer is an additional 1/4 of an inch. Decided to go with that wider layer. The sentiment I've already stamped out, I believe in you. Thought that would work perfectly with the 2 leaf pattern papers on this card. I cut a fishtail on both ends, and I'll just adhere it in place using some adhesive. I've already assembled my little girl gnome. She's wearing the adorable little gourd hat. This is so cute. And I used another leaf pattern paper for her hat. So now we have 3 different leaf pattern papers. And then she's also holding the leaf. So the sentiment really works well for this card. When I was digging through my older Doodlebug collection, I also found some older Doodle Pops. So I thought I would add 3 of the leaf Doodle Pops in the upper left-hand corner. Then to finish up the card, I'll use some more of the Spellbinder sequins. Put 2 of them in the upper left-hand corner and 1 to the right of my little girl gnome. I think the leaf Doodle Pops really add a lot to this card. I only had 1 sheet, so I couldn't use it for my second card. And I searched through all of my Doodle Pops. I have quite a few, but I didn't have any other leaves that would match this collection. So there is my finished card, and I did make 2 using this design. I love this little gourd hat. It's so cute. For card design number 4, the card sketch is from Sugar Pea Designs. This is Sugar Sketch number 53. For the very background of the card, I'm using the off-white shimmer cardstock. Then I have this fun pattern paper with all these little colorful circles on it. I layered that piece on some brown cardstock, then added that panel to my card. For the strip that goes across the card, I have a solid green pattern paper, and this is actually a sheet that came in the Doodlebug collection. They used to always have one sheet with just a solid cardstock color. I put a couple of Love from Lizzie peel-offs along the very bottom edge. This is the clear gold mirror color in the pinstripe style. I cut the peel-offs a little bit wider than this green strip and then wrapped the ends around the back. Next, I'll stamp the sentiment Happy Fall, and this is from the Fall Candies grid style stamp set. Stamped it all the way on the very left. Then I'll put ATG tape on the back and adhere it to the lower portion of my card. I cut that green panel a little bit wider than the brown circle pattern paper, but not quite as wide as the full A2 size card. Next, I'll add some large leaf die cuts, and this is from Jaded Blossom's Fancy Leaves die set. I use some tone-on-tone pattern paper for both of the leaves. For the yellow, I'll glue it down using liquid adhesive, and for the orange leaf, I am popping it up using some thin foam dimension. Just remove the release paper and adhere that to my card. Another old Doodle Pop set I found has these adorable little owls. And I decided to add a teal owl next to the leaves. There is teal in the background pattern paper. Then to finish up the card, I'll use some more of the sequins from Spellbinders. Put 2 in the lower left-hand corner, 2 in the upper right-hand corner, and 1 on the orange leaf. For any other fall cards I make this year, I need to remember how nicely this sequin set matches with the fall colors. And I love the pretty iridescent finish on the sequins. So there is my finished card, and I did make 2 using this design. For the other card, I added a little orange owl since I only had 1 teal. I love that leaf die set. There's also a maple leaf and some of the outline pieces included. For card design number 5, I won't be using a card sketch. Instead, I'm creating a little scene. I'm using some of the pattern paper that's included in the Doodlebug set. So the very background, it's a tone-on-tone, teeny tiny polka dot in blue. And then I'm using some of that solid green for the grass. And I cut out the little grassy hill using the mushroom die set from Jaded Blossom. So on this card, I'm featuring the fun tree stump die set. So it's very easy to assemble. I use some more of the leaf tone-on-tone pattern paper for the main portion of the tree stump. And I have some green cardstock for the leaves, and then craft cardstock for the very top part of the tree stump. I'm adding a couple of pumpkins in front of the tree stump. The larger pumpkin is from the Gnome Dies Fall add-on set. The smaller pumpkin is from their Fall banner dies. That would be fun to have an assortment of sizes. We'll add the large pumpkin all the way to the left in front of the tree stump. Also put a patch of grass, and I used the leaf tone-on-tone pattern paper for the grass. I did pop up that little grass patch using some foam dimension. And I also put foam dimension on the back of the small pumpkin. My little gnome is wearing the little sun hat, and this is from the spring add-on set. I have the little girl, but I decided to make her a scarecrow. So she's got the scarecrow hair. Then I added a few of the patches to her hat and also her dress. For the sentiment, I'll stamp it directly onto my card, so I am using my mini Misty. This is such a cute sentiment. Cutest gnome in the patch. I will be popping up my little scarecrow gnome using some foam dimension. On the very back of her sun hat, I did put a strip of double-sided tape. So now I'll add all of that foam dimension, making sure to put some small pieces on the edge of her hat. And you can see from the back side, I did have the full girl gnome outline, but I did need to trim down the hat in order for the sun hat to fit properly. I'll remove the release paper and have her sit right on top of that tree stump. My little scarecrow gnome will be holding a stalk of wheat, and this die is from the Farm Scenic die set. I did put some foam dimension on the top portion of that wheat stalk and then liquid adhesive on the bottom. I just added her hand, so now she's holding it. Now I'll assemble another crow. Now I did use the background piece where it had the little placement for the hands, but I trimmed those off. I still wanted to have that background piece for the main structure. I just didn't need the hands since she won't be holding this little crow. Behind the eye, this time I used some of that dark gray pearlescent cardstock. So I'll flip over my crow and add some foam dimension on the back side. And I am using some black foam dimension this time. Put a little bit of liquid adhesive on the crow's beak and feet. And I'll have the crow sit right on top of her hat. Thought that would be really cute. She's not a very good scarecrow though, since she has a crow sitting right on top of her. To finish off the card, I'll use a white gel pen and add highlights to my little girl, to the leaves, and the pumpkins. And then a final finishing touch, I'm using some gem stickers from Honeybee Stamps. It's this really pretty blue iridescent color. Put 3 of them in the upper right hand corner and 2 to the left of my little girl gnome. So there is my finished card, and I did make 2 using this design. This is one of my favorite cards. I love how it turned out. But do let me know which card is your favorite. For card design number 6, I'm not using the Doodlebug paper, and this is a little different. It's not my usual style. I'm using the Dear Friend stamp set, and I'll even be using the Dear image. Now, I won't be doing any coloring. The paper collection I'll be using for this card is from 49th and Marcotte. This is their Spectrum Sherbet collection. I selected a pattern paper that has all these fun colors. At the very top of the paper, it has a light yellow and a brown, and there's a faux stitch line right down the center. So I lined up my Dear image, so the very center with that stitching is basically halfway across the deer. I used my mini MISTI so I could get a nice solid impression. And then I'll use the coordinating die to cut out my Dear image. And isn't that fun looking? I love the look with the pattern paper. Very easy way to use some images without doing any coloring. I'll also be using the backside of that same pattern paper. It has this fun orange color. There's a little bit of print on it, a very distressed mixed media look. I put it in my mini MISTI so I could stamp out the sentiment for my dear friend. To add a little more to that background, I'm using some rub-ons from the same Spectrum Sherbet collection. For these first 2 pieces that I'm putting in the upper right hand corner, kind of using them like small banners. This is from the palette set. Then I have all these fun faux stitched pieces. These are from the Strawberry Lemonade set. So I went ahead and cut them apart. And I like that the rub-on sets also include the little tool. So these are very easy to use. You just want to make sure to press hard enough to get all of that image transferred onto your paper. You slowly remove the one side. If there's an area that didn't fully transfer, just lay it back down and rub a little bit more. The little stitching pieces are my favorite. What a fun way to add a little bit of detail without actually doing any sewing on your card. I'll add 2 of them in the upper right hand corner. Put 1 of them above the sentiment and then another off from the sentiment on the left side. I also have a little piece with a bunch of stars. So on this one I did notice a few of the stars weren't laying down, so I did have to go back and rub a little bit harder. You just want to make sure to hold that piece in place until all of the images have transferred onto the paper. So now I'll put some ATG tape on the back and layer this piece on some brown pearlescent cardstock. I'll add my card front onto a card base, leaving the 1/8 of an inch of the white card base showing. Next I can add this sweet little deer image. I'll put some liquid adhesive on the back and adhere my deer on the left side of the card. So I'm putting that deer right on top of some of those rub-ons. I did put an acrylic block on top for some added weight while the glue adheres. Then to finish off the card, I'll use some more of the Spellbinder sequins. I'll put 3 of them in the upper right hand corner and 2 in the lower left hand corner. And there is my finished card. Again, I did make 2 using this design. For the second card, I used some different rub-ons since I only bought one set of each. I bought this collection several months ago and I just haven't had a chance to use it yet, but I absolutely love it. Now here's another look at the 12 cards I made using Jaded Blossom's brand new Fall 2022 release. I love all the new fall stamp and die sets, and yay for a new Gnome fall add-on. If you are interested in any of the products I used in this video, I will have links provided in the description box below. Now, I'm not able to link to the Doodlebug collection I use since it is a retired collection, but I will add a link to one of their newer fall collections. And I'm not sure if you're aware, but Jaded Blossom also carries some Doodlebug products since they love Doodlebug as well. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a wonderful day.